I believe it was Bonnie Tyler who was holding out for a hero sometime around 1984, but I'm sure even she couldn't have predicted the absolute smorgasbord of good guys and gals that would, just a few years later, be unleashed upon the world thanks to the games industry. Over the years, our favourite titles have given birth to a great deal of influential and inspiring leading lads and ladies that are loved the world over by anyone who spends time walking a few miles in their heroic shoes. But have you ever stopped to think which protagonist is the best of the best? Well, we have, and we thought we'd plot them all in a handy list. It's worth noting that these are all just our own opinions, and we are dreadfully sorry if your favourite hero didn't make the cut. We'd also like to apologise to all of the Legend of Zelda fans out there, as we won't be including Link on this list, owing to the fact that, canonically, he's actually just several different heroes that all happen to be wearing the same outfit. Oh, and also, spoiler warning! With all that out of the way, I'm Ashton from TripleJump, and here are the 10 best video game protagonists. Number 10, Ezio Auditore Differens, Assassin's Creed series. Over the years, the Assassin's Creed series has had its fair share of cool protagonists, and although characters like Assassin's Creed's Altair and Valhalla's Eivor have had fans in the hundreds of thousands, there are none quite as iconic as Assassin's Creed 2's leading lad, Ezio Auditore Differens. A distant ancestor of modern-day protagonist Desmond Miles, Ezio was born into nobility in 1459 and is set on the path of vengeance when his father and brothers are hanged for a crime they did not commit. A quest which ultimately sets him up against the villainous Templars. Though he started out his journey as a novice assassin, Ezio quickly gained a plethora of skills and was even able to get his once fiery temper under control, making him not only a highly skilled killer in a physical sense, but one that's able to overcome his own emotions and strike at the perfect time. Sadly, though he has made a couple of cameo appearances in other games, it's not looking promising that we'll get any more outings from our favourite Italian assassin. But considering how many folks he's had to murder in his long career, he's probably due a nice rest anyway. Number 9, Jill Valentine, the Resident Evil series. As much as we love the rest of the Resident Evil gang, there's not one of them, not Leon S. Kennedy, not Chris Redfield, and not even Ethan Winters, that holds a candle to our best gal, Jill Valentine. We first met Jill all the way back in 1996, when she and several of her colleagues ended up trapped inside the zombie-infested Spencer mansion. Unlike many women in video games, Jill was neither a damsel in distress nor a scantily clad sex object, and was instead designed to be a strong, independent lady capable of holding her own. Not only is she hardcore enough to take on the likes of the hulking death machine that is Nemesis, but she's also every bit as capable of handling herself as her male counterparts. In fact, when it comes to the first Resident Evil game, most people prefer to play as Jill, on account of the fact that she has more inventory space and a lockpick. She's certainly had her ups and downs throughout the series, and though her appearance as a mind-controlled assassin in Resident Evil 5 was certainly a low point for our heroine, her frequent badassery throughout the rest of the series has certainly earned her a well-deserved spot on this list. Go off, sis. Number 8, Arthur Morgan, Red Dead Redemption 2. I think it's fair to say that Red Dead Redemption 2's Arthur Morgan isn't exactly the role model that we'd want for our children, but that doesn't mean he's not a compelling protagonist. Quite the opposite, actually, as his exploits in the Wild West make for quite an interesting character. Unlike John Marston, protagonist of the first Red Dead Redemption game, Arthur Morgan isn't really looking to redeem himself at all, and is only really trying to give up his dastardly ways because his hand is being forced by the advancement of humanity, and the fact that his way of life just won't be sustainable anymore. No matter how many heists he embarks on or people he kills, however, we can't help but root for Arthur Morgan, as regardless of his motivation, he's still trying to leave his life of crime behind. There's no such thing as a happy ending in Red Dead Redemption land though, and before he can secure his happily ever after, Arthur is diagnosed with tuberculosis and has to face his own mortality. Unable to secure an honest retirement for himself, he's at least able to set John and his family on a path to a better life before his own time is up. What a champ! Number 7, Commander Shepard, the Mass Effect series. As much as we love a good morality system in video games, being good boys and girls here at Team TripleJump, we often find it hard to pick the bad option, on account of the fact that we don't want to upset anyone. The great thing about our pal Commander Shepard is that their options for character progression are less good and evil and more lawful and chaotic, meaning that we players can be free to pick a cutting response to an annoying NPC and still be safe in the knowledge that we'll be able to save the galaxy. What players undoubtedly love most about Commander Shepard is the fact that they can create a completely unique character using Mass Effect's impressive profile reconstruction, but still end up with a protagonist that anyone playing the game can relate to. In other words, it's possible to make Shep your very own while still getting to enjoy the same experiences as other Mass Effect players. If none of that is enough to convince you that Shepard belongs on this list, then just take a moment to soak in how bloomin' cool they are, zipping around space, taking out baddies left, right and centre. 10 out of 10, brilliant protagonist. Number 6, Samus Aran, the Metroid series. Back in 1986, it was practically unheard of for a video game to have a female lead, as women were very often relegated to the damsel in distress role. Fortunately, the fantastic Samus Aran came along to put that trope to bed for good. Alright, maybe not for good, but she certainly paved the way for more badass ladies in video games, and for that, we salute her. Though she's a woman of few words, we can't help but admire Samus. She doesn't need to tell you she's a fearless warrior, because she proves it with every enemy she takes down. And there's no need for her to boast how good of a person she is when we see that every time she steps up to save the galaxy. Not content with just fronting a whole bunch of Metroid games, Samus has also made her way onto the Super Smash Bros. Roster on a number of occasions, as well as making cameo appearances in the likes of Super Mario RPG, Kirby Superstar, and Dead or Alive Dimensions. Whilst contemporary audiences have questioned how much a bikini-clad Samus does for women in video games, it's fair to say that without her, the landscape of video games would be a lot less diverse. Number 5, Kratos, the God of War series. If we were making a list of the most wholesome and morally sound protagonists, then it's fair to say that God of War's Kratos wouldn't have even made the top 100, let alone the top 10. Bland blokes who pay their rent on time and help little old ladies across the road don't for interesting heroes make, however, so we're willing to let all of the awful things Kratos has done over the years slide on account of the fact that he's such a great protagonist. We can't say that we blame Kratos for being less than happy with the world, however. After all, he's had gods and goddesses coming after him since the minute he was born. As angry and violent as he is, though, the likes of Ares and Zeus who oppose him are undoubtedly much, much worse. Whether he's trying to fight his way back out of the underworld, ending the reign of the Olympian gods, or simply trying to scatter his wife's ashes, Kratos is a compelling protagonist and a fierce warrior. He also gets bonus points for being a great dad, not to his daughter Calliope who ended up killing, but to Atreus, and we look forward to seeing more of their father-son antics in 2022's Ragnarok. Number 4, Nathan Drake, the Uncharted series. To some, he's the Indiana Jones of gaming. To others, he's a relic-stealing menace. But to us, he's the greatest male video game explorer of all time. Players first met Drake in 2007's Uncharted Drake's Fortune, where they were tasked with helping the cheeky protagonist find the lost treasure of El Dorado. Rather than simply creating just another bland action hero, however, Naughty Dog set about designing a character with his own distinct personality, basing the character on the likes of Johnny Knoxville and Harrison Ford. The result is a character that reacts to his bizarre circumstances like a normal person would, by complaining about how ridiculous the situation is and making snarky remarks. Whilst the swashbuckling elements of the character are an awful lot of fun, it's undoubtedly the human side of Drake that audiences fell in love with. Sadly, though players have been through an awful lot with Nathan Drake, whether he's trying to find the location of Marco Polo's lost fleet or searching for Iram of Pillars, it does seem that he's finally hung up his adventuring gear in favour of a quiet life of salvaging. Still, at least we've got the Tom Holland movie to think about.
There has to be another keyhole up there somewhere that opens this door!
I'm literally in a Papa John's right now.
Number 3, Lara Croft, the Tomb Raider series. Although it was Samus who was one of the first ladies to step up and show the world that girls could do anything the fellas could do, Lara Croft was the one to get right up in everyone's face and yell, "Girl power!" The world was first introduced to Lara Croft in 1996, where she could be found fighting a whole bunch of nasty lads and solving puzzles to find the Scion of Atlantis. Lara was the brainchild of designer Toby Gard, who after initially pitching for an Indiana Jones-style male lead for the Tomb Raider series, ended up rethinking things after being told it was too derivative. He was inspired to create a strong female character after noticing that many of the women in video games at the time were portrayed as sex symbols and little else. So rather than going for yet another scantily clad Street Fighter sort, he ended up designing the athletic, intelligent Lara Croft. Not only is Lara a fantastically smart and strong protagonist, but she's one of only 5 video game characters to be awarded a spot on the now defunct San Francisco Walk of Game, and she holds no less than 6 Guinness World Records. Would somebody get this girl a drink? She's earned it. Number 2, Geralt of Rivia, The Witcher series. You've got to have a certain level of admiration for a bloke who gets tons of hate from scores of prejudiced locals and yet still continues to spatula monsters like his life depends on it. Although Geralt of Rivia first made his appearance in Andrzej Sapkowski's series of short stories and novels, it's arguable that he's better known by the gaming community as the protagonist of CD Projekt Red's The Witcher series. Shortly after his birth, Geralt was sent to Kaer Morhen to begin his Witcher training, which saw his body mutated, making him the perfect monster-slaying machine. Though he may look imposing and lacks certain human emotions thanks to his upbringing, Geralt is a loyal friend and fierce warrior, always willing to step up to the plate to help a loved one, or anyone for that matter, as long as they toss him a coin or two. A witch has got to eat after all. Away from the battlefield, fans can't help but adore Geralt, and despite his often abrupt outward nature, underneath it all there's a caring character with a brilliant sense of humour. Considering that each Witcher game, at least in the critics' eyes, has been better than the one that came out before it, we can't wait to see what our ashen-haired hero gets up to next. And number 1, Mario, the Mario series. Personally, I am willing to fight anyone who believes there's a more iconic video game protagonist than Mario. Not a physical fight, of course, because it'll mess up my hair. Just a fight with words, but not really mean words, because it would probably hurt my feelings. Indeed, there are few characters as instantly recognisable as everyone's favourite Italian plumber, and we'd be willing to bet that even folks who've never touched a video game in their life would be able to pick Mario out of a police lineup. Starting out life as Jumpman in 1981's Donkey Kong, Mario gained his now iconic moniker when he was renamed after Mario Segale, the landlord of Nintendo's headquarters, and since 1985 he's been the star of more games than we dare to count. Throughout the late 80s and early 90s, Mario was confined to 2 dimensions, before finally making his 3D breakthrough in 1996's Super Mario 64, a game which is now considered to be one of the greatest of all time. Whether or not you're a fan of the Mario series, it's undeniable that a chap who started out as nothing more than red and blue pixels has evolved into perhaps the most beloved video game character of all time. And if that doesn't earn him the top spot on this list, then frankly, I don't know what would.